Finally, a slasher icon has taken Manhattan the right way. And the best part? Not a boat in sight. Sorry, Jason. What's up, everybody, and welcome to my review of Scream 6. Now, as far as this franchise goes, I was born in 1990. I started watching horror movies at a very young age, so the original Scream holds a very special place in my heart. To me, this is like my generation's version of the Nightmare on Elm Street, the Friday the 13th, the Halloween movies. And really, you can't say enough for the impact that this movie had. It came out in '96, during a time when the slasher subgenre of horror was kind of losing its popularity. You had these bad Friday the 13th sequels, and the Halloween sequels with like the Thorn trilogy. And then Scream came out, and it kind of reinvigorated people's interest in slashers, and it also reinvented what you could do with a slasher, making fun of all these stereotypical tropes in horror, while still managing to be tense and scary on its own. For anybody that saw my review last year of Scream 5 or Scream 2022 or whatever the hell you want to call it, you'll know that I wasn't the biggest fan of that movie. Now, as far as Scream 6, when I saw the trailers and I saw they were moving it to New York City, I was actually really excited for the move. I thought this had the potential to have great chase sequences, great set pieces, and maybe breathe some new life into this franchise. And after seeing the movie twice in theaters, I'm happy to report that I had a pretty good time with Scream 6. But before I get into the good, the bad, and the mixed, as always, please let me know your thoughts on Scream 6 down in the comments below, and where you would rank this movie in the franchise. And with that being said, let's get right into it. Jumping right into the positives, first and foremost, credit where credit's due, Michelle Barrera as Sam Carpenter. If you watched my video last year, you'll know that I was pretty harsh on her performance. To me, it just felt kind of stiff, kind of robotic or emotionless. And I don't know what happened between these movies, but Sam is so much better here, to the point that she might be the best part of the movie. Like, I've done a complete 180 on this character, where before I was a little bit worried about her being our new Sidney Prescott, our new final girl going forward. I've completely changed that opinion, and now I'm really excited to see what she does going forward. And to go right along with her performance, I think everybody in our new core four, they were all pretty good in this movie. They showed great chemistry together. You have Chad coming back as like the comedic relief character, but he's serious enough when he needs to be. He beats some serious Ghostface ass. Just seeing how protective he is of Mindy, Sam, and Tara, he has quickly become one of my favorite characters in these new Scream movies. You have Chad's sister Mindy return as like the Randy role of this horror fanatic, of course explaining the rules as is required by Scream bylaws. And while I didn't enjoy her quite as much as I did in Scream 5, she still did a great job. And the last member of our core four, you have Sam's sister Tara, played by Jenna Ortega. And at this point, do I even have to say that she was good? Like, this actress just continues to crush every role that she's given. And I love the sister dynamic between Sam and Tara. Like, on one end, you have Sam, who is obviously traumatized by these events from Scream 5. She can't let go of the past, which causes her to follow Tara to New York and kind of be overbearing, overprotective. But then you have the opposite. You have Tara, who went to school in New York to kind of get away from Woodsboro. She wants to leave the past behind her, forget anything ever happened. And I just love the way the actresses play off each other, especially when you compare it to Scream 5, where there wasn't much of a relationship there. I felt it a lot more in this movie. With these two at the forefront, I really didn't feel that Sidney Prescott hole as much as I thought I would. Of course, I love Neve Campbell, and I would love to see her back. But they do mention her in this movie, and they gave enough closure to the character that if she never comes back, I'm fine with that as well.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
And speaking of characters, there are two legacy characters that return to this movie, and the one that I put in the positive is Hayden Panettiere's Kirby Reed. I know not everybody loves Scream 4, I was a fan of it, but even if you didn't love the movie, seems like everybody kind of enjoyed that character. And as if she wasn't badass enough, she just cemented herself in my book by saying that the final chapter is the best Friday the 13th. Hell yeah, Kirby. Next up with the positives, I really was happy with the way they utilized New York City in this movie. This is not Jason Takes Manhattan, although that son of a bitch does get a cameo. There were people that said they didn't utilize the setting enough, and on top of like a fight on top of the Statue of Liberty, like straight out of fucking Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm not sure what they wanted to see here. To me, the three best set pieces in the entire movie all give that New York City or big city vibe. You have them trying to escape out of the high-rise apartment where the boyfriend neighbor puts the ladder across the two windows and they have to climb across it. Not quite sure where he got that random ladder, but that's besides the point. You have the scene in the bodega or mini mart, which really puts me in mind of Jurassic Park when the kids are trying to escape from the raptors. But this is the one you all saw in the trailers with Ghostface holding the shotgun, kind of like creeping through the aisles looking for them. And then third, and perhaps the best set piece in the whole movie, is down in the subway when the core four, the gang, gets like split up into two separate trains. Absolutely love that whole sequence with it being Halloween, so there's like multiple Ghostface on the train. And then my final two positives, I'm gonna put together because they kind of go like hand in hand. Ghostface and just the movie in general is probably the goriest and most violent of the entire Scream franchise. Like in this movie, this is not your Stu Macher Ghostface who's tripping over everything and getting hit in the face with a refrigerator. This version of Ghostface, he's just brutal, he's visceral, he's mean-spirited, he knows what he's doing, which doesn't always match up with the reveal, but we'll get to that. Most of the kills are pretty standard Scream, you know, stab in the stomach, stab in the head, but the difference here is that the camera really lingers on these shots. Like when he puts his knife in somebody and lifts it and like twists his knife, the camera really just sits on those moments. Now, as far as my mix category, I know in my positives I spoke about the legacy character that did work for me. The one that I think they didn't really need here, kind of shoehorned in, was Gale Weathers. Now, I love Courtney Cox, I love the character, and I know they kind of set her up in Scream 5 because she had moved to New York, so it makes sense to put her in here, but I just don't think she was necessary. And they kind of did her character dirty, where she was supposed to write this book for Dewey at the end of Scream 5. She just ended up going back to her old ways of writing about the Ghostface killer while kind of talking shit on Sam in the process. And she's so experienced dealing with Ghostface and being in these situations, I just don't understand why they had her character make some of the dumbest choices in the movie. Now, she does a couple really smart things as well, but then she does a few dumb things where you're like, is this even the same character? The one thing I will give to her is I thought she had one of the best moments in the movie with like her running from Ghostface inside her apartment. That whole sequence was really good. Another thing in my mixed category personally is this further exploration of Sam's dad being Billy Loomis. Now, I actually like the idea. I like that we get to see the darker side of Sam throughout this movie. Literally, the only reason I have this in my mixed is because, look, I love Skeet Ulrich, but enough with this ghost. I know this is something that like Sam's seeing in her mind, but I just can't see him without feeling like it's a damn Force ghost from Star Wars. I didn't like it in Scream 5, and I have to keep saying that I don't really like it here. We could just as easily do these moments with like Sam staring in the mirror, having an inner monologue with herself. We don't need like the cameo every movie of Skeet Ulrich. Now, getting into my negatives, I really only have two things here, but unfortunately they're two pretty big things that, had they fixed, could have shot this movie up a whole point at least. Starting with my first negative, it's just that the third act of the movie is kind of lackluster as far as the reveal goes. Now, I don't think the reveal was weak in the sense that, like Scream 5, where I kind of pegged both the killers in the first 15 minutes, this one I actually didn't guess all the killers. What makes this reveal not work for me is that A, I don't think the motive is very creative or well thought out. This is the one area where I think only having a year between these movies really hurt it. And B, just like in Scream 5, even Scream 4 with like little Charlie and Jill, but Scream 5 in particular, you have Amber like putting two knives through Dewey and lifting him off the ground. That's not gonna happen. And the same thing with like little tiny Ethan and Quinn in this movie. You have them throwing around like these big muscular guys, like Gale's new boyfriend. Just this huge dude gets bodied and then thrown through a wall by Quinn. It's just not believable. And then my other negative is that this movie really felt like it was just afraid to kill any of its main cast. And you just have to suspend your disbelief so much at times for this movie to work. It's almost gotten to the point in Scream where like a stab in the stomach is just like a splinter. It really doesn't mean much. And don't get me wrong, these are characters that I really love. But if nobody dies, Like, where are the stakes in that? There are moments in this movie where Kirby probably should have died, Gale should have died, Mindy should have died, but the worst offense, and the moment where I laughed out loud in the theater, was Chad. Again, I love Chad, and he went out like an absolute badass, saving Tara and Sam. But we saw this dude on camera get stabbed like 10 to 12 times. And then at the end of the movie, you have Tara, Jenna Ortega's character, crying about Chad dying. And you hear the ambulance like, "Wait, we got one more here." And I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me. There's no way he survived. Now going forward in Scream 7, will I be happy to see Chad again? Fuck yeah, I will. But I mean, come on, you gotta kill somebody. And just that whole aspect of the movie, you really have to suspend your disbelief for certain sequences to work for you. You have people getting stabbed, getting shot, and kind of just 30 seconds later getting up and running around like nothing happened to them. When it happened once or twice, I'm like, all right, that's fine. But then when it kept happening over and over, I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? But overall, I really enjoyed Scream 6. At the end of the day, this is a dumb slasher movie. I would much rather be entertained by a movie like this than for it to be a cinematic masterpiece. I don't want Scream to be fucking Citizen Kane or The Shawshank Redemption. Is it the best Scream sequel in the franchise? That I don't know. I'm sure I'll do a Scream ranking at some point in the future, so be on the lookout for that. But I'm gonna give Scream 6 a solid 8 slashes out of 10. Well, that's gonna do it for my review of Scream 6. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this movie, what worked for you, what didn't, and where you would rank this among the Scream franchise. That's one I really want to read, so please let me know your rankings down below. While I have you, me and 3 friends do a weekly pop culture podcast called Culture Shocked. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Link will be in the description below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing right over here so you don't miss any future content. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.